we need to take just a minute and talk about what the actual they're doing to the God of War franchise. It's not a question, like I'm not asking you. I'm just simply stating as a man that's been watching this franchise get handled like a Fabergé egg wrapped in a DEI checklist, and I have some thoughts. So God of War Le Fay was recently announced about 10 days ago or so, 12 days as of the recording of this video, and the internet has already pretty much decided what this whole conversation's actually about, and it's not Kratos, it's sexism, toxic masculinity, men who are afraid of women in video games. That's not what this is about. That is not what this is about. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it's about because apparently someone has to do that. Okay, so Kratos is one of the most iconic video game protagonists pretty much ever made, right? Not even a question. He's not top 10, not top 5. He's in the conversation with like 2 or 3 other dudes in the entire history of the medium as a thing that exists. This is a man that killed Ares. This is a man that killed Zeus. He killed basically every Greek god that ever existed, including some gods that I'm pretty sure he just made up so he could kill them. He ripped the sun from the sky at one point. I'm not completely sure that's accurate, but I believe it spiritually. And then in 2018, Santa Monica Studios did something genuinely impressive. They took this absolute wrecking ball of a human, man, god hybrid thing, and they gave him a little kid to take care of. And they gave him a grief arc. And then somehow that actually made him more interesting. And not less, more. And that's actually a hard thing to do. That requires actual intention. Ragnarok continued that. Kratos was a dad. Kratos learning how to show restraint. Kratos becoming the kind of man that his son could actually look up to instead of being afraid of. That's the character that we're talking about when we talk about the franchise that is God of War. So when Santa Monica Studios recently announced that the next game in the franchise would actually not feature Kratos as the main playable character, the reaction was not, as the internet has decided, a bunch of men throwing a tantrum because women showed up. It was fans of a specific character asking a completely reasonable question. Where did he go? And why? Those are 2 entirely different things, wildly different things. And the fact that we can't have a conversation without someone immediately reframing this as some kind of a gender politics debate is exactly the problem that I'm here to talk about. And here's what nobody is saying. Women cannot be protagonists in video games. No one is saying that. That argument doesn't exist outside of a very small group of people who are going to be angry about anything regardless and don't represent the actual fan base of the game that we all know and love. Here's what people are actually saying. You don't take one of the most beloved franchises in gaming history, remove the character that franchise was literally built on, and replace him with someone new, and then act surprised when the audience has questions about it. This is not a Faye problem. Faye might be a great character. The game might actually end up being genuinely good. I have no idea, and neither does anyone else because the game literally just got announced. The problem is the franchise name on the box of the game. And here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. If this exact game, the same story, the same character, the same world launched as a whole brand new IP with a different title, this conversation literally doesn't happen. Not even close. A new female protagonist in a brand new action game set in some kind of a mythological afterlife? That's interesting. That might be great. People might actually be excited about something like that. But they didn't do that. They put God of War on the box. They used Kratos' legacy as the launch pad. And when you do that, you inherit the expectation that comes along with it. That's not sexism, that's just how branding works. Jason Schreier, one of the most credible voices in gaming journalism, said back in 2025 that Santa Monica's next project wasn't a new IP, but it might feel like one. Santa Monica themselves knew this. They knew it felt like a different thing. They just decided to lean on the God of War name anyway. And now everyone's arguing about gender politics and is doing exactly what that decision wanted them to do. Making noise instead of asking the actual question. And I also want to talk about something, or rather address something that I don't think is getting enough attention in this situation. And that something is named Frank, the companion character. His name is Frank, and it's not Frank like Frank Castle or Frankenfurter. PH Frank. Phranque. Frank. Frank with a PH. He's a cosmic cube. He is voiced by Jack Quaid, who I genuinely do like. Jack was awesome in The Boys. I had no personal vendetta against the man myself. But Jack is here because someone at Sony looked at this project and said, we need to pull in a broader audience. And Jack Quaid is currently a very recognizable name due to the series that I just mentioned, which is The Boys. But a cosmic cube named Frank is not a companion character. A cosmic cube named Frank is a Hot Topic keychain that gained sentience, and they gave him a speaking role. And another part that I find interesting about this Frank is that not very many people are talking about this Frank, frankly. Everyone's so locked into the whole gender politics argument that a floating cube with a quirky name and a celebrity voice actor just quietly walked into one of the most legendary franchises in gaming, and not really many people even blinked at that. I think that Frank is actually doing more damage to the credibility of the game than Faye ever could, and we're all too busy arguing about the wrong thing to notice who the real enemy in the room is. Kratos had a son. His name was Atreus. His companion was his dead wife's ashes that he carried on his back for the entire first game. Not to mention a severed head that he cut off of a tree of this dude with horns that knows everything about everything named Mimir. That's the energy that this kind of franchise was built on. And they decided to replace that with a cube named Frank. I'm not saying that it's not going to work. I'm just saying that it's a choice that was made that nobody is examining close enough because everyone's too busy performing their opinions about gender to notice what's actually going on in front of them. It's kind of similar to what Naughty Dog did with The Last of Us. And I want you to listen to this one, and I'm sure you've maybe already put this one together in your head, but if not, I'm going to say it for you. When Naughty Dog killed Joel in The Last of Us Part 2, the reaction was pretty immediate and it was pretty fierce. And the internet did the same thing that it's doing right now. It called the fan base sexist and homophobic and unable to handle progress. But that wasn't it at all. The people who were upset were not upset because Abby is a woman. They were upset because the character that they spent years investing in was removed from the story in a way that felt designed specifically to provoke a reaction rather than serve the actual fucking narrative. The industry watched that happen, watched all of the discourse that followed, watched the reviews, watched the sales, and they learned jack shit from all of it. Because here we are again. Different franchise, same pattern. New protagonist. Beloved legacy character sidelined. Discourse immediately goes to the loudest and least productive place possible. And the actual creative decisions, a cube named Frank. A franchise name being used as a marketing shield. A story that Santa Monica themselves admitted might feel like a new IP. None of that gets examined. Nobody is afraid of Faye. People are just tired. They're tired of having a legitimate question reframed as character flaws. There is a difference, and until the industry figures out what that difference actually is, we're going to keep having this conversation over and over and over again. Every single time that someone makes a creative decision and wraps it up in the wrong franchise name. But anyway, God of War Le Fay might end up being a great game. I genuinely don't know. Nobody does. It just got announced. I may play it when it comes out. I may not. Faye might be a fantastic new protagonist. The Every Win, that's where the game takes place apparently. Every Win might be a fantastic setting. The story might actually pay off the legacy in a way that really makes all of this feel worth of it, and we're all going to look back and laugh at this in a couple of years. But Frank is still a cube. With a PH, Frank. And that's a hill that I will die on, regardless of how the rest of this game and the bullshit turns out. But this is Prison Biscuits. New video every Wednesday and maybe Friday, maybe Monday. I'm not sure of the schedule yet. But subscribe if you want more of this. Don't if you don't. Either way, Frank still exists, and we're all gonna have to figure out a way to live with it.
The cube is Frank.